Morning, even afternoon, we got a banger for y'all today, baby. Got a video from Jev here, putting his YouTube in the description as always. Check Jev out, he's a legend. This is Jev talking about and reading the Sbmm blog post that Call of Duty made a couple days ago, well, as of right now, a little while back. I also talk about my opinion about Sbmm, what I think about what they said, etc. in this video. If y'all do enjoy this, be sure to leave a like, hit the sub button, and most importantly, be sure to tell somebody you love them. All right, I'll catch you on the next one.
Update here from Call of Duty themselves about Sbmm.
Wait, I must not have started at the right time. He didn't say what's going on, guys. It's Jev.
All right, what's going on, guys? It's Jev. We got an update here from Call of Duty themselves about Sbmm. It was a small post before where they said that at some point in the future they were going to address the skill-based matchmaking system and give us information on how the system actually works. Because of people spreading around information, they wanted to basically try to clear the air and set everything straight, at least, you know, from their perspective, set everything straight about what they know and what they are doing with the matchmaking system. Now, it's no secret.
So this, just so you guys know, this happened a while ago now, but this, I'm kind of just curious, A, what Jev has to say, and then B, just so you guys know too, I didn't read this article. I'm kind of taking this as like, this is my real first time seeing what they had to say, because I didn't read it myself. So I'm kind of going to listen to Jev and see what he has to say too.
Now, I understood why skill-based matchmaking was there. I understood what the positives were. I understood what the negatives were. I also understand that not only is it coming from somebody that isn't a big fan of skill-based matchmaking, it's also coming from somebody that is considered to be good at the game. I'm on the upper echelon.
Jev and I have very similar takes on Sbmm, and just so y'all understand, I think Sbmm is garbage. I think it's stupid. Playing Call of Duty growing up, there wasn't this skill-based matchmaking where it's like you got to put everyone kind of in these own. I've always said it. I've said it this way. All right, ranked should be ranked. Pubs should be pubs. Ranked mode, you should have a rank, and you should be playing against other people of the same level. Okay. Pubs, you should be able to play against whoever, so you can have a complete bot playing against someone like Scum. That'd be cool for the bot, man, playing against like the king who's Scumpy. You know what I'm saying?
Somebody that is considered to be good at the game.
Me and Jev are very similar on that, I think.
Of the game, of Call of Duty, for whatever that's worth. The matchmaking system would consider me a higher level player. And also to note this, I am a higher level public match player. I'm not trying to be competitive. I'm not trying to go pro. I'm just playing Call of Duty. And I happen to get good at it because I enjoyed playing it so much. That's just a disclaimer before I read this shit. Call of Duty update, matchmaking is
chat. Everyone watching, I'm not that bad.
The conversation about matchmaking in Call of Duty. With the launch of Modern Warfare 3 Season 1 late last year, we committed to a conversation with our community about matchmaking. How much you want to bet at the time they felt like that was a good idea? And the longer and longer it went on, they were like, oh shit, how do we actually address this stuff? Because they know that the community is not going to react fondly to this. And I have to say, before I even read this, there is maybe only a couple things that they could say in this blog post that would prevent people from getting angry with them or just straight up denying what they're going to say in the blog itself.
Yep.
They're going to claim that they're lying or something. I personally don't think that they're lying. So whenever they make some kind of statement here, I highly doubt I'm going to look at that and go, that's not true. I think what they're saying and the way that they say it is true, but there's also a little bit of a kind of a caveat to those truthful statements. But let's just read it first instead of just thinking what I think they're going to say. Before this even came out, I assumed they would just go and say, hey, we take your connection into account, we take your KD and deaths and stuff like that into account, skill-based damage isn't real, maybe buying things out of the store doesn't affect it, things like that. Also note, we had to have a group of people years ago do a skill-based matchmaking study for them to even admit that it even existed. This shit was like Voldemort to them. They wouldn't even say anything. We had to have people like Exclusive Ace, Drifter, J-God, and sorry if I forgot any of the guys that helped out with that, maybe True Game Data as well. All of these guys that do all the data collection and all that shit, they worked for days upon days with multiple accounts, multiple sheets of information, a bunch of footage and shit to show you that this system actually exists. Because at the time, we didn't know if it actually did exist or not. This blog focuses on how matchmaking works across multiplayer only. I wonder why it's only multiplayer. We will be continuing the conversation about matchmaking in other modes like Warzone and ranked play at a later date.
I didn't even know, so like right there, I didn't know that this was only multiplayer as well. They're
gonna say something for the Warzone related ones like, well, technically the matchmaking is less strict than it is over in multiplayer because there are more players and we have to pull from a larger group of people to fill the lobby. So there's going to be more bad players in Warzone than there would be in multiplayer. It's harder to find 100 great players at one particular particular time in the day versus just 12, which we already know. Ranked play obviously will be different, and that's the way that it should work. No one is going to complain about how the matchmaking works in ranked play. They're going to complain about hackers and scripting and shit. We know that there's a difference. But the idea for multiplayer, for what most people are saying, is that the game used to just solely focus on connection, or at least it used to be heavily there, and maybe like 90% of it is based on connection, and then 10% is like a skill related thing. Now it's split more evenly amongst those things. Getting better at the game makes your connection worse, because the game then is trying to take into account that you're a good player, which then will have to find other players that would then more likely be a little bit more spread out, so then they would have to reach to those players further away from just the people generally around you. Playing on East servers, it's the most plentiful server there is. There's always players available in multiplayer on the East. The idea,
and correct me if I'm wrong too, but like some of you older Call of Duty players probably remember this. Like we used to host, right? Host migration. Y'all remember that? So like that's how it used to be. And that's how you know that SBMM really wasn't there, because at the end of the day, it was kind of like Jeff's saying here, it was all based on connection. That's it, really. And it was great.
Is that you just got a plethora of different types of players.
Not saying that we need to host now, but
your multiplayer lobby. And ping is king. Matchmaking is a multi-factor process to place players on teams with and against each other to compete in online games. Single biggest priority with respect to multiplayer matchmaking is delivering a fun experience to our players. Understandable. There might not be a matchmaking system where everyone is happy. That's true. While we have many years of testing and learning as part of our matchmaking process, we are continuously working to deliver the best experiences possible. For that reason, we continue to test and look forward to more enhancements to come. Call of Duty.
This is like me, like writing one of those, like, you know, you write like a report or something in school. This is like my first like page.
Does consider skill.
And talking about it without talking about it.
Performance as a component. They say as a component. As do most in the industry, but skill is not the dominant variable. We consider and prioritize several factors into creating lobbies. It's composed of connection, playlist diversity, recent maps and modes, input device, voice chat, platform, skill and performance, and the time to match. So there's multiple things going into this. Instead of it just specifically being 90% connection, they have to go and make a system that takes all of these things into account. But although they're not really mentioning what percentage of that or which way it would lean more, unless these numbers are by the actual thing here. So number one is connection. Ping is king. Connection is the most critical and
I've literally said that. That's crazy.
Process. And while it might be the most heavily weighted factor, that still doesn't mean that you will get the best connection every game. But if you are a good player, it becomes less and less consistently great. That is a proven fact and side effect of weighing all these multiple things in here. Your ping is no longer king once you pass a certain threshold. That is a fact. Time to match. This factor is the second most critical in the matchmaking process. We all want to spend time playing the game rather than waiting for matches to start, which makes a lot of sense. The following factors are also critical to the matchmaking process. Playlist diversity, the number of playlists available for players to choose from. Recent maps and modes, considering maps you have recently played on, as well as your mode preferences. So obviously they also have to match you into the mode that you pick. That's common sense. And then your skill and performance. This is used to give our players a global community with a wide skill range.
See, that, in my opinion, this skill and performance used to not be there at all. Just being someone that's older now and has been playing COD majority of my life, that used to not be there. And now I mean, y'all have seen some of the, and I'm speaking from a Warzone perspective here, not multiplayer, hashtag time in offline, you know what I'm saying, just grinding. But like from a Warzone standpoint too, man, like even though that's not addressed here, it's I'm not getting
like
these,
how they sit there and put this
I'm not getting these easy lobbies,
really
bro.
Stress, like just in case we're too fucking stupid to understand, there are players that are really good and there are players that are really bad. But also, Call of Duty is a low skill floor, low skill ceiling video game. So it's very easy to go from the bottom of the barrel to the top. It's very, very easy. In terms of how the matchmaking system separates players anyway, it is very, very easy to go from bottom of the barrel to the top. You do well a couple times, the game thinks you're scum. Admittedly, they have to separate by a whole lot of different categories here. Even if they didn't take skill, let's just say it was just connection only, they still have to. They have to match you based on what mode you're picking and what your input is, and your platform. Those three are the biggest ones because they are just baseline, immovable things. They do not change. Whereas your skill and performance can change. The issue with this whole collage here that they have for priority is that some of the pillars like connection, input device, platform, some of those are just immovable. They just are. They are not dynamic. Whereas all of the other things in here are dynamic. They can change. Your skill and performance can change. The maps and modes that you're picking can change. Turning your voice chat on and off can change. But your connection itself Your Ethernet, your Wi-Fi, your consistent connection where your server is always where it is. Your input device is always what it is. Your platform is always what it is. There's always going to be dynamic elements that will change how it puts you in the lobby. I just don't think that's good design for a public matchmaking thing. That's just me. If the wait time in a lobby is excessively long, players typically recycle the process by canceling out of the matchmaking search and restarting it, or even quitting altogether. This does not quicken the matchmaking process, and in fact can even be detrimental. I mean, we already know this though. For example, the popular Modern Warfare 3 Rustment playlist.
I was gonna pause and say,
rotation, players often leave lobbies and matches early on, hoping to re-queue into shipment instead. I have to pause them here. So you guys are aware that a playlist that you make available, you guys are completely aware that Rustment as a playlist, people disproportionately want to play Shipment over Rust. Can you explain to me why you still put out the Rustment playlist then? I'm just asking. If you know that people
preach, Jeff. He's preaching
want
now.
to play Shipment this much, why is Shipment not the priority? I mean, I have a pretty good idea as to why that is. This right here, they admit that they know that people would rather play Shipment over Rust. They have the data. They keep talking about how they have the data and they can or can't share. They know that Shipment is exponentially more popular, yet they still put out this playlist that consists of both of them. And then they're trying to make us feel bad for backing out of the lesser of the map.
Right.
I'm playing a small game mode. You give me the best small map or I leave. It's that simple. You can't make me play Rust. Here's the thing. Their idea of fixing that issue likely isn't just, oh, well, we'll just never do Rustment again. We'll just only ever do Shipment 24/7. That wouldn't even be their solution. Their solution would to add some sort of penalty to backing out of public matches. Or
literally,
to go even further, make it so you can't.
They're gonna be like, stay in and play Rust.
And back out. You know how you can't leave during the final kill cam, for example, when a game ends because the skill-based matchmaking system wants to sit there and try to see and collect all the data of how good you just did at the end of the match? That's the reason you can't leave, by the way. I'll just Alt F4. You can't fucking stop me. Everybody on the consoles and shit, you can't Alt F4, but you can close the app. You can't make me play something I don't want to play. What are you gonna do? You can't fucking stop me. As the matchmaking process may prioritize backfilling that spot, this could result in players perceiving that Rust is disproportionately selected over Shipment. TLDR, trying to cherry pick maps may have an unexpected result. Our goal is to ensure that players spend more time playing matches rather than waiting for them, which makes a whole lot of sense, but this feels a little insincere. Obviously, they want people playing matches and stuff, but the main stats that they bring up are sales and how many people are playing the game. So long as you bought the game and you even log on to the game at all, whether you're in a menu or a match does not actually matter to them. They just know that if you're spending too much time waiting, they are afraid that you're going to go and pick a different game. It's not because they care about not wasting your time. It's because they want you to waste your time on their game. This frames it like they care about your time. While skill is one of the several factors in Call of Duty multiplayer matchmaking, we know that the community wants more information about how it fits into the process. Skill is determined on a player's overall performance. Kills, deaths, wins, losses, and more. That more can just encompass so many different things as well, including mode selection in recent matches as an overall metric across all multiplayer experiences. This is a fluid measurement that's consistently updating and reacting to your gameplay. So this is whenever you feel like, oh, I just did well that game, here comes the not fun.
Right, so everyone always says this, and I think everyone that plays knows this. If you have a lobby and you're playing and you notice that people aren't as good as you and you're having fun, they're like, wow, this is a good lobby, like I'm doing really well. You know, right after that, you're gonna get harder lobbies. That's the same with Warzone too. If you end up in this kind of body lobby and you do well, you get a huge win, you know, probably the next, however long it's going to take, you're going to get cranked up and you're going to end up in these really hard lobbies, and that sucks. It almost makes you not want to do well.
Game next. This is what they're talking about. It's updating and reacting to your gameplay. Oh, you did well? Time to play against harder people. Which would be fine in a ranked mode. But in public matches, there should be a variety of players.
I said that at the very beginning of this. See, I told you me and Jeff are on the same page with this, bro.
That's how it used to be. Some form of a matchmaking system has always existed.
Ranks should be ranks, pubs should be pubs, bro.
They've been working on it for years. So wherever they were coming from at that base bare bones level, that was the best. Ping is not king. Ping is like one of 8 princes. Our work in this area dates back as early as Call of Duty 4. Yeah, see? Skill is implemented across the video game industry, and we recognize that continuous refinement is required to deliver the best possible experience for our players. Majority of players are players that are considered on the lower end of the bracket. They will always be favored more over the people on the higher.
Knowing that, I'm just sitting here, which Call of Duty? So they're saying this has been there since 2007. So, I mean, from what? So the very first COD was 03. Hang on, list of Call of Duty games. So they're trying, okay, so they're saying, I mean, in this, that 09 was MW2, so they're saying it was in there. I mean, I don't know if I agree. I mean, hang on, I'm looking at a whole list right here. So you got 03, you got Finest Hour, you got Call of Duty 2, Call of Duty 3. So they're saying even though they're saying this, I don't know if I believe it. You cannot tell me that there was a skill matchmaking system in World at War. There's no way, bro. And MW2? Listen, I'm just trying to remember. Maybe it's because I was so much younger. I mean, 09, I was 19. All right, shows my age a little bit. But maybe here's what I will say. Maybe it was there back in the day, but I don't think it was cranked near to the level it is now. I mean, comment down below. Let me know if you agree with me or disagree with me on that.
Makes sense as a business, but as a player, again, if you just so happen to get a little bit better than bottom of the barrel or have a good day, your best possible experience is no longer happening. We use player performance to ensure that disparity between the most skilled player in the lobby and the least skilled player in the lobby isn't so vast that the players feel that their match is a waste of time. Makes a lot of sense. Our data on player outcomes clearly indicates that the inclusion of skill in Call of Duty's multiplayer matchmaking process as it currently stands increases the variety of outcomes experienced by players of all skill levels. In other words, all players, regardless of skill level, are more likely to experience wins and losses more proportionately. So if you're winning too much, we need you to lose. And if you're losing too much, here's a win. Our data shows that when lower skill players are consistently on the losing end, they are likely to quit matches in progress or stop playing altogether. Oh, can't have that. This has an effect on the player pool. A smaller player pool means that wait times for matches increase and connections may not be as strong as they should be. Oh, are you telling me that Call of Duty, the massive FPS titan, could
Are they trying to say there's not enough people playing? Like, come on, bro.
potentially struggle with player counts? Are you guys conceding that you might potentially be losing players to other games? No, that can't be. Not Call of Duty. Not my Call of Duty, the #1 FPS ever created. The #1 sales every single year. No way. This can compound over time and create a spiraling effect. Eventually, when only high-skilled players remain because low-skilled players have quit out of frustration, the result is an ecosystem that is overall worse for everyone. Well, no. They're trying to frame this in a way that the players will suffer the most. No, that's not the truth. The players will not suffer the most if only high-skilled players remain. The company suffers financial losses by not getting new players. And then you guys will shut down because then you can't even maintain a matchmaking system to begin with. Say it how it is. You don't want people to quit because you need to be able to make a bunch of money to even continue making the games and your bullshit posts. This is more about money than the player experience. Don't get this twisted. It is more about them bringing in more revenue than it is about the player experience. Whether you're good or bad at the game, it is about getting you in and keeping you on the game and spending money than it is about your actual experience. It's a psyop. And I know that there's going to be people in the comment section saying, well, that's just how a business works. Well, I'm glad that you recognize how a business will prioritize itself over the people that are consuming it. I'm glad you recognize that, dipshit. There's so many people out there that just cross their arms like, well, that's just business. That doesn't make it any less shitty or frustrating to see. Game data indicates that having some limitations on the disparity of skill across the players in a match makes for a healthier ecosystem. We also understand that many high-skill players want more variety of experience, but often feel like they only get the sweatiest of lobbies. We have heard this feedback clearly and will continue to test and actively explore ways to mitigate. But you won't share that information, right? You won't be able to explain how you could possibly make that a thing because you can't give information because you're afraid of people taking advantage of it, even though people are already taking advantage of this system. Realistically, there's no winning here for the players or the company in general. That's really the truth. They're just in a position now where there's just been such a long history of different philosophies and things, different players' experiences, a lot of weird gaslighting going on in their blog posts saying that somehow their system since Call of Duty 4 is somehow even close to the monster of a system that they have now. It's not even close to...
That's kind of the point I was making about the old game to the new one.
The same system. Does the Call of Duty matchmaking process impact any in-game elements such as hit registration, player visibility, aim assist, damage, etc.? Our matchmaking system process does not impact gameplay elements. I believe them on this. I don't believe in skill-based hit registration and all that stuff. I just don't believe that. It comes down to likely like weird connection issues, and it's pretty murky here, but I just don't see them doing this kind of thing here. Spending money on Call of Duty content such as bundles, battle pass, or black cell change how players are matched. Money spent does not in any way, shape, or form factor into matchmaking. I'm not really sure whether that's true or not, but again, I'll accept the blog as the truth looking at it in terms of, you know, what they're saying to us. I just think that there's other little caveats that they're just not mentioning. Does Call of Duty use bots in multiplayer matchmaking? I don't think that they do. If this changes in the future, we will inform the community. Just know, guys, there may be bots coming in the future. You never know. Have you ever considered an opt-in, opt-out system for the matchmaking algorithm? I never even really considered that. Have you ever tested removing skill as a consideration for matchmaking? We have run tests over the years to determine if removing skill as a consideration for matchmaking even makes sense. We will continue to launch these tests periodically. To date, the data remains consistent with what we detailed above. Players tend to quit matches or stop playing if they're getting blown out, resulting in a negative overall experience for all players in the lobby and the general player population. We purposefully do not disclose when these tests occur because it may impact feedback or the data we are seeing during these tests. Have you ever considered making a playlist with no skill-based matches?
So they're basically saying they test it, but they, okay. I mean, they're basically like, we're testing it in the back end, but we're not going to tell you when we're testing it, but just know that we're testing it.
Matchmaking. We have considered this in the past. We'll continue to examine if the idea makes sense as part of the experimental playlist or specific modes. Nothing to announce on that front today. This is just extra shit. Like, people just want it to be how Call of Duty used to be. That's really just all it is.
I agree. Jeff, by the way, why don't they just make a playlist that's called No SBMM? And they just see how that playlist does. Not a good idea? I mean, I think so.
Everything that they said in this blog post honestly makes a whole lot of sense and basically didn't teach us anything at all. It's exactly what we thought it was. It makes sense for them. They're getting the most players and the retention that they possibly can with this current system that they have. They are seeing this. Their jobs depend on it. The guy that wrote this article probably has a gun to the back of his head. He probably sees the corpse of the other guy that typed the last blog next to him. So again, I believe everything that they say in this blog post. I don't think they're lying. I don't think they're just like crazy conspiracy and people putting out these patents and stuff like that and all this other shit, talking about skill-based damage and stuff like that. I don't believe all that stuff. I'm not taking it that far. But in this blog post, they conceded a few things. Number one, they're afraid of losing players. Whereas before, it wasn't even really a concern. There wasn't even really like a talk of like trying to retain players and stuff like that. It was just Call of Duty the biggest, Call of Duty number one, Call of Duty with the most players. And they're basically saying here in this final little area, number one thing that they want to prevent, they don't want people to quit the game, and they know that good players will continue playing even if they're, quote, not having fun and crying about every single
we just sit there
thing
and
that's happening to them in the game. They know that those people...
Hey, listen. All right, I understand I'm not the best, okay? But compared to... Listen, there's probably some of you watching that are better than me. But compared to the average player... I am considered a above average player. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Do I suck? Yes. Compared to a lot of these guys, I suck, but I'm above average
to play. Whereas the players that aren't so good are more likely to quit than the people that are just actively addicted and support the game.
Yeah, Whips just said there's even people that think I cheat. There's people that think I cheat, bro.
Because they know that the common random player will just still buy it every year the same way. They're basically saying it's a win-win for us this way. Deal with it. And they're right. Overall, it's working for them. Or is it? If you take a look over here at Steam charts, Call of Duty barely stays in the top 10 anymore. It's currently number 9, whereas 20 minutes ago, it was number 11, falling out of the top 10, losing to games like Team Fortress 2, Apex Legends, PUBG, and Counter-Strike. Call of Duty is not the king. They clearly care about player retention and stuff. This has to hurt them in some way, shape, or form. The further down these numbers go, the bigger I smile. Is that a direct result of the matchmaking system? No, there's definitely more elements to it than that. There's just...
PUBG had 187,000 people playing right there. That's actually insane.
Better games out there at this point. And they have been.
I already know, though, a lot of people say that this is only Steam charts, right? So this doesn't include console. And I know that that's like a big argument that people make about these lists. You guys are getting blown the
fuck out. I mean, congratulations on the sales year over year with all this soulless data collecting shit. But at the end of the day, Call of Duty's losing. You guys are losing to multiple other FPS games out there. And it's due to the way that you view your player base. So if they feel invincible, they feel like, oh, well, it doesn't matter what the players complain about. We'll just go and put this blog post out there. Let these dumbasses know. You guys are losing.
Still has like 90,000 people playing it,
I don't give a fuck. This is embarrassing. And I know that they're going to bring up console numbers and all this other shit and sales and yada yada. Again, it's soulless. People do not play Call of Duty consistently after the initial release. It has been this way for years. So if anything is going to hurt them, it's this. You guys are not the best FPS game out there. You haven't been the best FPS game for a long time, and you're going to continue to lose. And me as a player, you are actively trying to oust. I am happy to see it. I want to watch it burn. You guys are going to collect data? My data says that I'd rather go and play something else. Data here says that there's better FPS games, so I'm just having a much better time, along with all of the viewers, and the common sentiment around Call of Duty right now is not good. And it's a shame too, considering Modern Warfare 3 is better than the last few Call of Duties we had. It doesn't even have to do with it being a bad Call of Duty. It's just as good as Call of Duty can be. Anyway, I'm getting on Pal World.
What is this, bro? I wonder, I'm actually, this list at the end here, I wonder if there is a list where they can put the console. I am curious what the console numbers are, because you got a game like Counter-Strike, right? Where it's only PC. And there's obviously almost 800,000 people playing as of when he was doing this, but it's like, a lot of people bring that up. So like, what are those numbers? Like, what are the numbers on console? We have no idea. SBMM, dude. It's never, there's never going to be a win, I guess.